Welcome to tub number 7. This is the collection of Kevin's personal Lexon tubs of video game goodness. What you're looking at here is a Lloyd's Pong system. It's a little missing a button here, but otherwise it works. Fairly rare, you know, a lot of these systems are hard to come by. Power, etc., reset. Had a nice, like, metal, silver top, metal switches, really, you know, good. Had a port here for something, I'm not sure what, as well as on the sides there was ports, and you would think, well, those are for extra controllers or something, but the fact is the controllers themselves, as you can see, were completely wired to the unit. This was the paddle controller. You could play up to 4 players, move that up and down to play. There was no serve button or anything. You would actually use the unit for that, and then there was a gun, and you would fire that at targets. It was kind of like a ray gun more than anything else. But yeah, it's just your standard Pong system. They had both pistol and rifle games. I think that this probably, you know, extended or connected to something that would turn it into a rifle. But for whatever reason, I don't know. It's not here. It's just how the system was built and designed. A lot of these things could be modified or changed once they were, you know, created. Maybe this was originally external controls, and then they said, well, let's sell it, let's just wire the controls right in. That's what they did, and they got rid of the rifle and pistol options and just changed it around. It's hard to say. It's, you know, the history of these things is lost, etc. But Lloyd's Electronics International, you know, very rare to find any kind of information. Actually ran on batteries too. It's crazy. Okay. This is actually here a spare Odyssey unit. I have a full Odyssey unit, so you'll see that in the future. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. This is just here for spare parts. I've never actually turned my Odyssey on, so I'm not sure I actually need this. But it's an Odyssey game console, but it's missing everything, so it's completely useless without the other stuff, which I will show you. Down the line. This is Video Pinball from Atari. This was actually a game system that you would actually play pinball on. This would serve the ball, and you would use these side controllers to play. This thing's really dirty and beat up, but that's just the way they came, and I haven't gone back and cleaned them. One of these days I'm going to go through all of them, clean them all up, but I don't have time right now. And you could also play like Breakout with it, power option select, and I believe it ran on some kind of batteries. So that's what you could do back then. If you wanted to play a pinball game, you didn't get a cartridge, you bought a whole system. And it would just take up space. Okay, this one here is fairly rare Arcadia 2001. These were European systems that were released. They had a couple of different names at the time. Game cartridge would go in here, you pick your options, and then almost like in television controllers, except they had little joysticks that would plug in on top that you could unscrew. These are obviously removable. Buttons on the side. I don't know how popular this system was, but there was a number of variants of it, and there was a fairly decent selection of titles that came out for it, but it was nowhere near the world of the, you know, the Atari 2600 and the Nintendo Entertainment System or anything like that. It was just another option, you know, made by Emerson, so it was a big name at the time, but you know, just not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal of a system, but fairly rare overall as a collector's item. Not super rare, but fairly rare. Here is one of many. You'll see many that look like this in my collection. This is an Odyssey 400. There was a 100, 200, 300, 400, and a 500 that all used similar layout, just different colors, and played different games. As they went up in generations, they did different things. This is the 400, so it had 3 games and was probably in color. They also released a I believe it was a 1000, 2000, a 1200, a 3000, and a 4000 system as well. And I have all of them somewhere. I think I may be missing one Odyssey because I think someone stole one of mine. But otherwise, yeah, That's an Odyssey. It ran on power cord, actually, not batteries. And these were fairly popular. You could find them everywhere. We actually had one of these when I was a child, but I couldn't tell you what version of it. And because it didn't work, one of the controllers malfunctioned, so my dad took it back and bought a Star Trek walkie-talkies. It's a true story. Here is a TurboGrafx 16 game system. This would take a little hue card that would slide in here like that, and have a controller here for it. There's a D-pad as well, 2 buttons, and then some options that you could pick on the buttons, select and exit. The TurboGrafx 16 was popular. It came out during the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo era. The problem with this TurboGrafx was that it didn't have the same sort of marketing muscle as the other game systems from the other two, giant companies, and also it had a 8-bit graphics processor. I believe that's what the problem was. Even though it was 16-bit processing time, or vice versa, because it only had 8-bit, it had that reputation like most systems get, where it was only kind of 16-bit. Not that anybody actually cares if the games were any good, which they did have a number of games like Legendary Axe and things that were Game of the Year, or Forgotten Axe or some crap, Bonk's Adventure, things like that. They were really, really big and really popular. Later on, they actually had a CD unit that connected to it, TurboGrafx CD, and it would actually play CD games long before any of the other systems played them. A lot of Japanese CD games came out for it. NEC and things like that later came out with various systems that were similar. TurboGrafx Express, SuperGrafx, I think the NEC PCFX was related to this system. Very, very popular, especially over in Japan, but in the United States it just never really caught on. But I bet some of you actually had them. And finally, this is an APF TV Fun. It's another Pong system, a little nicer looking. There were many variations of this exact same unit, some with a gun, some without, and some had different panel controllers. Some were 2-player, some were 4-player. As you can see, there was two units on the base system itself, your standard selection of switches and toggles, and then you had a, if you want to play 4-player, you would actually hand the other 2 players these crazy bomb-looking making devices here with their silver tops, salt and pepper shakers, and they would just play the boop, 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 boop. I mean, I don't know how these parties went. Hopefully they were doing a lot of narcotics at the time, because it's the only way I could see you actually having any fun with it. Alright, so that's tub number 7 down. So stay tuned for tub number 8. There's about 32 or more tubs left to go. Holy crap. Later.